And welcome in. A very happy Friday to you. It is Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri, and we certainly appreciate you getting your evening started with us here tonight as we've got plenty going on. What a weekend it's going to be here as the NBA playoffs. Well, they'll all be set by this time tomorrow as we've got the final two play-in games coming up here tonight in just about an hour. In South Beach, the Miami Heat will look to once again return to the postseason and try and do what they did last year, which was, of course, win the East and then play for a championship. They fell a little short against Denver last year, but just like last year, they've got to go ahead and beat the Chicago Bulls in order to get into the postseason. And some interesting line movement in this game all day long, but really the storyline here is that Jimmy Butler was ruled out a little over 24 hours ago, and you might have seen that the money started rolling in on the Chicago Bulls here. Now, the interesting part about this one is that the look-ahead line with Jimmy Butler on the court was about 3.5, and once Jimmy Butler was ruled out, this came cratering down here to about, it was even 1 at one point, but it did creep back up to 1.5, even 2 in some spots. Now, the news that we have here in this game coming up is that Duncan Robinson looks like he is going to give it a go here. Why is that important? Well, Jimmy Butler and Terry Rozier are out, and Miami can certainly use the scoring of a Duncan Robinson as we welcome in our radio audience here from around the country. A very happy Friday to you. Game Time Decisions on the SportsGrid Network. Thanks for stopping by. I'm Joe Raineri, and we are getting ready. Not too far from where the studio is here right now that I'm sitting in. The Miami Heat will be getting the Chicago Bulls' best effort to try and advance to the playoffs. And, of course, Miami's going to have to do it with their best player, Jimmy Buckets. Jimmy Butler out with a knee injury. Terry Rozier out with a neck injury. Duncan Robinson in. Tyler Hero in. So really outside of Butler and Rozier, the Miami Heat team is locked and loaded, ready to go. There are some questions about the Chicago Bulls team we need to remember. And it looks like DeSomo is a go. Caruso is a go. Drummond is a go. Now, say that with caution because this is the playoffs and the play-in game. So if guys are capable of playing, they're going to play. They are not trying to manage minutes anymore at this point. That is, those days are gone. Nobody is going to be watching, well, we got to save them. It's a back-to-back. No, if you can play, you're going to play here in the playoffs. And just because Caruso, who twisted his ankle in that Hawks game, and that's always a iffy injury, these guys are all going to give it the old college try. How effective they are will remain to be seen. But I think the fact that Duncan Robinson was taken off the injury list is good news for the Miami Heat because Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, Highsmith, and the rest, Kevin Love, they will be on the court. That is a lot of experience on that Miami Heat team. And quite honestly, if you're the Chicago Bulls, it's one thing to beat the single worst ATS team in the NBA this season, that being the Atlanta Hawks, who quite honestly had stopped playing about 3 months earlier. But it's a whole nother thing to go on the road into South Beach here and take on a Miami Heat team that quite honestly, with Jimmy Butler, without Jimmy Butler, they certainly have enough to be able to win this game. None of this is going to matter, though. Bulls or Heat win. none of it is going to matter since their next opponent is going to be the Boston Celtics. The interesting part about this move today is that this total was as low as 205 and a half today. It is now 208 in some spots, which is kind of where we started with the look ahead. It was bought down big time after the news of Jimmy Butler, and now we're starting to see a whole lot of buyback here in the market as this total continues to rise. Very similar, the second game. New Orleans at home couldn't get it done against the Lakers. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means they too have to play one more game in order to advance. Only they're going to have to do it without their star player, Zion Williamson. He is out. But the difference between these, the Miami Heat and the New Orleans Pelicans is there sounds like if New Orleans can get past this game against Sacramento, there's a good chance that Zion may, in fact, be back here for the playoffs. I don't think there's any shot Jimmy Butler is back for Miami against Boston. So New Orleans has got to get it done first. The good news for New Orleans is that Ingram is back. He's 100% healthy. They still have C.J. McCollum. They still have Trey Murphy. They have a lot of shooters on this New Orleans team. But Sacramento, well, no Malik Monk, no Kevin Huerta. They're a little shorthanded as well. They do have De'Aaron Fox and, of course, the double-double machine, Sabonis, ready to roll here tonight. But this is pretty much a pick-em as well. The Pelicans hovering right around that -1, 1.5 at home. Even though Zion is not there, keep in mind, this Pelicans and Sacramento teams played each other 5 times this year. And in all 5 occasions, New Orleans was victorious. Now, what does that mean? Well, it doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot at this particular point, because in each of those 5 games, Zion played, he didn't play. C.J. McCollum played, he didn't play. There was really a whole lot of mixing and matching throughout the season here. But what we do know is that every one of those 5 games was ridiculously the total higher at the end of the game than what we are looking at right now. 218.5 is what this opened. We see 211s now in the marketplace. Think about that. You go over the scores that these teams played to in the 5 games this year, and I promise you not one of them sniffed under 211 points. So while Zion is a wrecking ball, we get it. There is still enough firepower with these two teams in order to get this thing way, way over the 211 points. So that is going to be a topic of conversation here as we move on through and get you ready for that game. That's going to be right after the Miami Heat and Bulls game. Figure around 9:30 Eastern time tonight in New Orleans. We have a monster slate of Major League Baseball games that we are going to dive into. And first pitch on a couple of them about 20 minutes away. So when we come back, we'll go ahead and start diving in to some of these Major League Baseball games here tonight. We'll see if we can find some winners, and we'll do it on Game Time Decisions here on the Grid.
It's when he swung it easy at 3/4 golf swings, and he pretty much hit his number all the time. Dude, but when he hit something full, he hit it 20 yards over the greens at times. He's like, what are you doing?
He's just smiley, happy, and a freakish athlete golf robot that's going to be right there winning majors for the next 10-plus years. It's amazing.
Did you say he was smiling or smiley?
Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, Trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The Philadelphia 76ers, who are the second best team in this Eastern Conference by a mile when Joel Embiid is healthy. And that's just what they are. So now, if Giannis isn't available, the Bucks would be dogs in the series.
He ain't sleeping on that air mattress anymore. He's got a regular king-size bed, a Posturepedic, whatever they call it, a Sealy's, whatever they do, those things. He's ready to roll. Denominating tonight.
Game Time Decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
People that bashed him will be eating their words this year. Pretty heavily favored to be a first-round pick, minus 400 earlier this week. But that's not the surprise.
If you're drafting J.J. McCarthy in the first half of the first round, you clearly believe not only is his starter, he's going to be your starter for years to come. But
a popular bet was under 3.5 wide receivers in the first round.
The tape doesn't lie, baby.
Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell Coast to Coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game Time Decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
this
Late
sort
Night.
Of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. A very happy Friday to you. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by as we get ready for the final two play-in games for the NBA. But let us not forget, in addition to the NBA playoffs, we've got the NHL playoffs just around the corner. That's right. We've got a whole lot of very intriguing series in the NHL beginning tomorrow. And nobody better to talk about the ice than our man George Kurtz in the house here. And I know you got to be excited. We had you on In-Game Live, I believe it was last night, and you busted out quite the bobblehead collection of New York Islander players. We were very and thoroughly impressed with that. But my question here now is that will any of those bobbleheads be playing in this series against the Hurricanes? Because I'm not sure, Kurtz, and I've been talking to a lot of people today. I'm just not buying that this is as cut and dry as a lot of people think for the Hurricanes. Are you buying that it's as simple as, yeah, it's going to be 4 or 5 games? Are you giving the Islanders a puncher's chance in this one?
I am giving the Islanders a puncher's chance. There are two reasons here for the Islanders. They're built for the playoffs. They're not built for the regular season. They're not built for an 82-game season. They're built for a 7-game series where they can pound the other team, pound them with Matt Martin, pound them with Casey Zizekas, pound them with Cal Clutterbuck, tire them out, and get some breaks here. That's really what you hope for if you're the Islanders. Get some breaks here. We'll see what happens. The Islanders did receive some good news today. Noah Dobson, their top defenseman, will play tomorrow, game 1. Unless Patrick Roy is lying to us, he will play tomorrow. That's heavy news because outside of Dobson, there's really no other Islander defenseman who can skate the puck out of the zone. It's pretty much Noah or bust there. So he will play, missed the last 3 regular season games. Good news there. So that's it. Puncher's chance. The goaltending we know for the Islanders can be good to great with Varlamov and Sorokin there. Varlamov is expected to start game 1. He's been as hot as any goaltender over in the NHL over the past, 3 weeks here. Really helped get the Islanders to where they're going. The bad news for the Islanders is that Carolina's damn good. You can make an argument they're the best overall team in the Eastern Conference here. Carolina Hurricanes eliminated the Islanders last year in 6 games, I believe. Well, they're better this year. They got Jake Gensel, all right? So they're a better team this year. So it won't be easy for the Islanders. Islanders did go 2-1-1 against the Hurricanes during the regular season, for whatever that means. I don't believe any of those games were with Jake Gensel, by the way. So there's that. The Islanders need to stay out of the penalty box. All right, they're the league's worst team in killing penalties. They're not good at it, and they don't care if Carolina takes a penalty because their power play is terrible as well. So this can't be a special teams battle between these two teams. Stay out of the box. Limit. Get some breaks, get some traffic in front of Frederick Anderson. See what happens there. Listen, it's all nice to say here. I think it's Carolina in 6. I think Carolina moves on. I said this is just too good a team here. I think they are maybe the top team in the Eastern Conference here. They're on a collision course with the Rangers next round, in my opinion. I got the Canes in 6.
So Canes in 6 there for a series. So you can, you can lay the 1.5 there. Expect them as far as the game goes for the series. Got to be low scoring, right? And by the way, who is starting in goal for the Islanders here? Have they made a decision? Let me ask you this. Who do you want? Who gives the Islanders the best chance in game 1 to pull this thing off?
There's little doubt in my mind that Ilya Sorokin is a better goaltender than Semyon Varlamov. But, Joe, I am the guy. You got to play the hot hand here. Varlamov is the hot hand. He's playing fantastic. There's no argument there. I can't think of how you wouldn't do that. Patrick Roy doesn't owe anything to Sorokin, right? He wasn't the coach there or for Sorokin last year, the year before that. Though I'm not saying anything negative about that, but Roy has also had Varlamov in the past. When he were with the Rockies, right? So the Avalanche, not the Rockies. There's very little doubt in my mind that Varlamov goes tomorrow. If he doesn't play well, Sorokin goes game 2 on Monday. I think you will see, no matter what happens, I think you will see both in this series. Roy's not going to tell us this. I don't think he will. We'll know tomorrow during the morning skate. But it would be, I don't want to say a shock, but it would be a pretty big surprise if it's not Semyon Varlamov tomorrow. And yes, by the way, if this is not a low-scoring game or a low-scoring series, then the Islanders have no chance. Because if it's a high-scoring series, that means everything went wrong for the Islanders.
So let's see here. If the Islanders, you don't think they're winning, so it's only fair that the President's Cup trophy winners get the curse, right? Because there's no way as an Islander fan you want to see the Rangers have any success. And yet, I'm not lying here, Kurtz, when I say each of the last 8 President's Trophy winners have failed to make it past the second round. That is the longest stretch in history of the award. But the last time the Rangers won it, didn't they have some success? I think back in the 90s, they ended up winning the whole damn thing here. But you believe in curses? Because the Rangers, if they don't make it past Apples, they're going to be a lot of people trying to tank next year and not actually win the President's Trophy. What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. If the Capitals upset the Rangers in the first round, ain't nobody winning the President's Trophy. They'll be trying to lose on purpose. It'll still be like last night. Anybody watch hockey last night? No one seemed to want to play Dallas in the first round. All of a sudden, the Golden Knights can't beat Anaheim. The Kings are choking against Chicago. It'll be the same thing next year during the regular season. The President's Trophy? No.
Yep.
No, we don't want that. No, nope. Exactly. So, listen, Washington's. I've been saying this all year long on this show, whatever show we've been doing here. I don't know how the Capitals have won games. I just don't know. They've been outscored every period. Outscored the first period, outscored the second period, outscored the third period, outscored in overtime. They have the biggest, they've scored the least amount of goals out of playoff teams in the Eastern Conference. I think they're 5th lowest in the NHL. Think about that. 5th lowest goal scorer in the NHL, yet they made the playoffs. They have the worst net difference as far as goals for, goals against of the playoff teams here. Them and the Islanders are 1-2 in that category. I mean, it just comes down to the fact that we would say, listen, Islanders, Capitals, Penguins, Devils, Sabres. Sure, I left out a team or two there. None of them were, very good teams. 2 of them had to get in. All right, and here we are. Capitals, could I see them squeaking out a game here? Charlie Lindgren has played fantastic in net. The Montreal Canadiens and St. Louis Blues are going to be like, how did we let this guy go? But he's been fantastic here. I can see him stealing a game. Maybe he can steal 2. That being said, I think this is just a walkthrough for the Rangers, a warm-up until they play Carolina next round here. I got the Rangers in 5.
So is there, because I do believe, too, if I'm not mistaken, 8-1, the Rangers to win it all. That is the highest price we've ever seen they were about 22 to 1, 23 to 1 before the season started, the Rangers, but now they're 8-1 here. If you need to jump on the Rangers now, right? If you really think they have what it takes to be able to make a crack at this, you're probably not getting 7-1, 8-1 when they run right through the Washington Capitals.
And that's the key, right? Because I think they will run through the Capitals, and also when that price goes down to, 5-1. All right, something like that, because they're going to win easily. It's not going to tell us how good the Rangers are, because the Capitals, well, they're not very good. All right, we'll find out how good the Rangers are next round when I expect they play the Carolina Hurricanes. Then we'll find out, because those are two good teams. All right, Hurricanes, Rangers. Then they beat that. Then we'll find out. Maybe they're going to play the Panthers in the finals here. Then they're going to go play the Dallas Stars or someone like that. This is why it was so important to finish in first place in the Eastern Conference, because the first round, you sort of get the gimme game. Right, the gimme round. You're going to play whatever team finished in eighth here. That's why it was so important. You get a round to figure it out, to get your feet wet. The Rangers' only bugaboo is really 5-on-5 play. They don't score a lot of 5-on-5 goals. They're a power play team. You give this team power plays, they're going to put the puck in the back of the net. But 5-on-5, they need to find it. And that's why I kind of like it. This first round against Washington, they can afford to take some chances here, to change it up and see if they can figure out what works for them here, and then move on to the next round. I love the Rangers. Like I said, this is the only series that I think could be a sweep here. I'll take the Rangers in 5, though.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. That next round, let's say, against Carolina, how many are the Rangers going to be a favorite in? And what is that? Another pick 'em back and forth kind of situation? It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. We'll talk more about some of these prices with these series when Game Time Decisions continues.
It's when he swung it easy at three-quarter golf swings, and he pretty much hit his number all the time. Dude, but when he hit something full, he hit it 20 yards over the greens at times. He's like, what are you doing?
He's just smiley, happy, and a freakish athlete golf robot that's going to be right there winning majors for the next 10-plus years. It's amazing.
Did you say he was smiling or smiley?
Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The Philadelphia 76ers, who are the second best team in this Eastern Conference by a mile when Joel Embiid is healthy. And that's just what they are. So now, if Giannis isn't available, the Bucks would be dogs in the series.
He ain't sleeping on that air mattress anymore. He's got a regular king-size bed, a Posturepedic, whatever they call it, a Sealy's, whatever they do, those things. He ready to roll. Denominating tonight.
Game Time Decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
People that bashed him will be eating their words this year. Pretty heavily favored to be a first-round pick, minus 400 earlier this week. But that's not the surprise.
If you're drafting J.J. McCarthy in the first half of the first round, you clearly believe not only is he a starter, he's going to be your starter for years to come. But
a popular bet was under 3.5 wide receivers in the first round.
The tape doesn't lie, baby.
Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game Time Decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points
as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in GameTime Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri alongside George Kurtz, who comes in for a second segment with us here. We've got plenty of Major League Baseball that we're going to get to here, Kurtz, but I pepper you about your Islanders, and you were gracious enough to admit that your Islanders blow and are probably going to get run out of the rink there against Carolina, which I appreciate. So I'll give you the opportunity to give me a dog here. If I hear one more person tell me that the Tampa Bay Lightning are going to beat the Florida Panthers, I'm going to laugh. But apparently, and I don't consider them to be a dog. What do you do with the Boston and Toronto? Like, there's got to be a dog. Is it Winnipeg? Who is it that is going to advance in this first round at plus money?
Well, first off, I have Florida beating Tampa, by the way. I think it's going to go 7,
Yes.
a fun series, but I have Florida beating. I thought Florida was the best team in the NHL up until maybe a month ago, where did they take their foot off the gas? Were they looking forward to the playoffs? That sort of thing. But Florida's a team. I don't trust Bobrovsky, but I still think that's a fantastic team. But I have them beating Tampa in 7. Fun series, though. Probably the series I'm looking forward to watching most in the Eastern Conference here. Which brings us to our other series in the Eastern Conference. Here's my dog for you. Gonna make, I enjoy getting Cam angry. It's fun seeing his face turn red. And when I talk bad about the Islanders, his face gets real red real quick here. So I enjoy doing that. It's fun. But gonna make Cam happy here. I think Toronto's gonna beat Boston. I just do. I don't even know if it's going to be I don't even have it in 7 games here. I think Boston is pretty much a one-person team. It's David Pastrnak. Brad Marchand is not the same player he used to be. They're not deep down the middle anymore, which is a little tough to do with. Patrice Bergeron retires. Krejci goes back to Europe here. So a little tough for them. Zach has been nice. Coyle's been nice here, but they're not deep. They're just not deep here. They're a team. They have an interesting conundrum. They like to go with every other game they change goalies. Swayman, Ullmark, Swayman, Ullmark. Last year they decided in the playoffs, though, to change that up. We're going to go with one goalie. They chose Ullmark. They chose poorly. Did not work out for them. What do they do this year? Are they going to go once again alternate every game like they do all season long? Or are they going to choose one goalie here? And we really don't know here. The bottom line is this. I don't think Toronto's going very far, mind you, but I think they are better than Boston. I think they'll win the series. I don't trust their goaltending either, Samsonov or Wall, but I think they just have too much offense for Boston here. I think their defense is just good enough to keep the puck possession in the hands of Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares, and company there. I'm going to go Toronto in 6 as my upset in the Eastern Conference.
Ooh, all right, there we go. Cam is not going to be happy at all there, but that's all right, Kurtz. You're going to get it. You're going to get it done. We're going to make some money on Florida, and then we're just all going to laugh at the Islanders. Tonight, when it comes to the Major League Baseball setup here, an oldie but goodie returns. Justin Verlander on the mound here tonight, Kurtz. And you and I were talking, a lot of people have been talking about the return because it's certainly, the Astros can certainly use the help here. But do we trust Verlander, even against the Nats, who just handled business against the Dodgers? Are we trusting Verlander enough to get behind him here tonight? It'll be good to see him out there, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think the Astros are certainly looking forward to seeing him. You said it. That pitching staff has been devastated, right? So many injuries there between Verlander, Valdez, Urquidy, Louis Garcia, Lance McCullers. I mean, their whole starting rotation theoretically is on the IL here. And their youngsters like, Hunter Brown and JP France, no, not getting it done there at all. Joe, even if, it doesn't matter if it's Verlander. Any pitcher that makes his first start of the season after an injury has been out 2-3 weeks or a month, whatever you want to call it here.
Right.
I wouldn't trust. It has nothing to do with Verlander. I wouldn't trust any pitcher in this situation. You don't know what you're going to get. Is their velocity going to be up to par here? You know, is he going to take a couple of innings to get used to it? I mentioned to you during the break here that I do think he'll be on some kind of a pitch count. So if you want to take the under on 15.5 outs, I don't know what's 15. It might be 16.5, but I would take the under on his outs. I just don't think he's going to go more than 5 innings. You know, I think Washington maybe a little bit better than we think they are. I don't know how they took 2 out of 3 from Los Angeles. I certainly bought it on a couple of those games, not in a happy way. So, no, I don't trust Verlander. Has nothing to do with him. I wouldn't trust any pitcher making their first start of the season in this situation tonight. I want to see it first.
So we do have another game coming up here in just about, I think, the 6:40 time frame with the Phillies taking on the White Sox. And I normally would never bring up the White Sox because, well, they're trash. They're a AAA team, basically. But they happen to have a pretty darn good young pitcher over there in Crocs. So what are you thinking here with Garrett taking on Spencer Turnbull? A lot of under bets I'm seeing coming in here, especially early on. I get it from the White Sox inability to hit even against Turnbull, but what do you think here? Is this a dead under this game?
It's 7.5, so I can't say it's a dead under, but I certainly lean under. All right, now Crochet did get lit up his last start, right? Things didn't go all that well for him. He did have 10 strikeouts, so he might be feeling the pressure a little bit. A young pitcher who realizes, I can't let up more than 1-2 runs. If I do, this game's over. All right, we can't hit, and they can't hit. You know, so I have no problem taking the under on the White Sox team total. You know, I think the Phillies are going to win the game. I'm on the Phillies there, and it's as part of a parlay. I'm not going to lay minus 184 here. If it was anybody else but Crochet, you know, you'd be easily taking the Phillies to win this game, right? Crochet's the only guy who can pitch on the White Sox, and but even that, it's just not enough for this team. You said it. And I don't think you put it strong enough. Minor league team, this might be an independent league team. They're really, really bad. They're going to challenge the record for most losses of the season.
Yeah, no, they're awful. I mean, Juan Moncada, Luis Robert, they can't. They have nobody in that lineup there. But this kid is the real deal, man. I mean, you watch him pitch, and it's not all fastballs. He's got a crazy slider, and it makes his fastball that much harder to hit. So it's going to be interesting to see how this kid performs moving forward with no run support. He might just be good enough where he doesn't need a lot of run support here. So that game is also coming up at 10 o'clock. You got 6:40 rather in about 10 minutes. You do have the Yankees getting ready to take on Tampa. I don't know what to make of Tampa. This is not I know it's not the Tampa of old. I can tell you that over the last couple of years. This lineup is suspect at best. Do we trust the Yankees to be able to get this game in the books here tonight and win one?
Trust is a strong word. All right. The Yankees have been struggling on offense, so I'll take out the 9th inning on, on Wednesday's comeback victory over Toronto. They didn't hit it all in Toronto. You know, they face better pitching than what Tampa has right now, as far as Gausman, Kikuchi going in there. But, you know, the Yankees, you just don't know. When are the bats going to wake up here? When's Judge going to wake up? Had the big hit, the big double to help the Yankees win that game in Toronto. But other than that, he's looked awful this season. Soto, really the only person hitting. Volpe was hitting, but now he's slumping. Rizzo's not driving the ball at all. Torres hasn't shown up yet this season. So it's been a struggle for the Yankees. I can tell you here in the Northeast, it is gray. It is cool in the 40s here. It's not a great night for baseball here. And this is like Philadelphia plays a part in this as well. I don't think you'll see high-scoring games here. So I think this game's going to be an under. You know, this smells like a 4-2, 4-3 game for me here. Could be a bullpen game as well because no Yankee pitcher. I think it must be in their contracts that no Yankee pitchers allowed to go past the 5th inning once they start. So it's been frustrating for the Yankees all season long. Their bullpen's going to be worn out by Memorial the way it's going here. I give the edge towards the Yankees, but there's no way they should be laying 180. To anybody right now. So they're not hitting enough here. It's not like Clark Schmidt is an ace pitcher here. I think the books are just assuming that the Yankees are going to beat up on Alexander, which may be the case, but the Yankees have no problem getting people on base. It's driving him in. That's been an issue.
Yeah, well, it would appear that, Anderson, usually this is one of those games for Tampa where they bring in an opener and then they pass the ball off to Anderson, but they're trying to stretch some of these guys out now because, well, they just don't have the kind of staff here. They're trying to buy enough time, maybe hopefully to get an arm or two back here over the next couple of months. But lefty at Yankee Stadium, it'll be interesting to see. The total has dropped, to your point, opened up at 9. I'm seeing 8.5s all over the place here. Maybe even an 8 before it's all said and done. The one game where I have no idea how we're not getting double digits is with Texas and Atlanta. Can somebody explain to me how Heaney on the mound is not going to give up 9 runs himself? And the Texas bats seem to have figured some things out here, and it's not going to be that hard to go up against Chris Sale, is it, Kurtz? It's an over, isn't it?
Yes, I agree with you. On both points. Heaney's been bad. He's just been bad. And he's probably the pitcher who loses his job, by the way, once they're healthy. Once they get anybody back, by the way. I think, when Bradford comes back, I think it's Heaney who's coming out of the rotation for now. Scherzer could be back in May. Now they'll make another tough decision there here. So I think Heaney's not going to be long for the rotation anyway. Sale wasn't good over the weekend when he pitched against Miami. Gave up a whole bunch of runs here. So, yeah, I think this is an overplay here. I do. As far as the game itself, I probably lean towards the Braves. We're certainly not laying 210, and I don't love a parlay. I don't love them in a parlay. I don't like them enough to put them in a parlay there. But give me the over here as well. I think we'll get some runs tonight. 7-4, 7-5, somewhere around there. Smells like a final score to me.
Yeah, no, it's. I think the runs are coming here tonight. So end us with your beautiful chalky parlay tonight. Give me one. Give me 2 of the best favorites you got here tonight, Kurt.
There really aren't any great parlays tonight. There aren't. Because you think about it, okay, we're taking Philadelphia. I don't even think that's all that great, by the way. I'm going to take the Orioles as probably the other one, by the way. And I don't love that over Kansas City either. I just love this Orioles lineup here. I think they score a lot of runs here. And it's always, they spread it around with somebody. There's not even anybody I can really go on here. But the Dodgers are playing the Mets, and the Mets right now are playing very well. They're 10-3 in the last 13, so I can't go on the Dodgers there either, which has been my favorite parlay early on. Montgomery and Snell, 2 Boris clients going up against each other tonight as well. Kind of lean towards Arizona there.
Ooh, I better bounce back. That was atrocious against the Giants yesterday there. George Kurtz, always a pleasure, my man. Go Islanders. We'll have more Game Time Decisions next.
It's when he swung it easy at 3/4 golf swings, and he pretty much hit his number all the time. Dude, but when he hit something full, he hit it 20 yards over the greens at times. He's like, what are you doing?
He's just smiley, happy, and a freakish athlete golf robot that's going to be right there winning majors for the next 10-plus years. It's amazing.
Did you say he was smiling or smiley?
Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The Philadelphia 76ers, who are the second best team in this Eastern Conference by a mile when Joel Embiid is healthy. That's just what they are. So now, if Giannis isn't available, the Bucks would be dogs in the series.
He ain't sleeping on that air mattress anymore. He's got a regular king-size bed, a posturepedic, whatever they call it, a Sealy's, whatever they do, those things. He ready to roll. Dominating tonight.
Game Time Decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
People that bashed him will be eating their words this year. Pretty heavily favored to be a first-round pick, minus 400 earlier this week. But that's not the surprise.
If you're drafting J.J. McCarthy in the first half of the first round, you clearly believe not only is he a starter, he's going to be your starter for years to come. But
a popular bet was under 3.5 wide receivers in the first round.
The tape doesn't lie, baby.
Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game Time Decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. I'm Joe Raineri, joined by our good friend Mark Zinno here as we get ready for a pretty interesting slate in Major League Baseball games. But of course, coming up here, top of the hour, we've got the Eastern play-in game here. Somebody has got to win this, and somebody has got to advance to lose to the Celtics, Zinno. So the question is, who is it? Is it going to be Miami, sans Jimmy Butler and Terry Rozier, or is it going to be the Chicago Bulls? I will say this. I, under no circumstances, believe that Miami is not good enough without Jimmy Butler to beat the Chicago Bulls at home. Having said that, I'm kind of shocked at where this total continues to rise as the money to the over continues to roll in here. Are you shocked here? Are you expecting some points in this game here tonight like the market does?
I mean, look, when I look at this game, in full disclosure, I stayed off of it, but I definitely lean Miami here. They're 13-9 straight up without Jimmy Butler. It's a short enough number that you're going to play the money line anyway, right? You're not going to lay the 1.5 on the chance that it falls on one. Just play the money line and get out of Dodge. So you're not necessarily worried about a spread, but 13-9 straight up without Jimmy Butler on the year, and they average 109 points per game, which is kind of not too much different than what they average with Jimmy Butler in the lineup. So, I mean, it's not an incredibly big drop-off, but you have to remember this. I mean, a couple of things had happened for the Bulls, and I think this is some of the public thinking that the Bulls are going to do what they did to the Atlanta Hawks, that they're going to do that to the Miami Heat, and I just don't think that is reality more than anything. I mean, Kobe White's not dropping 42 again. The Bulls are not shooting better than 45% from three. They're not shooting better than 47% from the field. Like, that's not who they are. Like, their offense can take advantage of bad defenses, and you've seen that this year. You've seen them drop 130 on the Hornets. You've seen them drop 125 on the Wizards. They don't drop 125, 130 on good defenses like Miami. I mean, you would need it to just be an unconscious kind of shooting night against this Miami defense, on the road no less, for them to be able to do it. Remember, they were at home against the Hawks, and that's just a really bad defense in Atlanta. So I don't think Miami is susceptible to give up as many points as Atlanta did to this Chicago team. But I also think Chicago was fairly out of their minds when it came to shooting. For them to do that 2 games in a row would be rather surprising. If they can pull it off, they absolutely deserve to move on and get their butts kicked by the Celtics. But I just don't see the game going that way.
Yeah, and I do think that there is a big advantage coaching. Eric Spoelstra, 108-79-1 against the number in his career in the postseason. You got to love his, interviews, too, prior to the game, because everyone's like, oh, you can't win without Jimmy Butler. And this is not the team. If there's ever been a team that's been the epitome of next man up, it's been the Miami Heat, because this isn't the first go-around without Jimmy Butler. Boston's a different animal, but again, you just need, in order to get to Boston, you got to win this game tonight at home. I think there's more than enough opportunity for him to do that. The second game is, to me, a true coin flip here. Are you a believer that New Orleans can't win without Zion in this spot? Because they did a pretty good job of handling business against Sacramento all year long.
Yeah, and one of the games that they did win was without Zion. Now, here's the thing. I believe if Zion doesn't get hurt, they end up winning that game against the Lakers. I don't think they lose that game. I think he was that much of a factor in that game, and that much of a factor that created headaches for the Lakers defense, that as soon as he came off the floor with 3:13 left in the game, that it was kind of dead in the water. And I was somebody who was on New Orleans money line in that game, so it was not a fun night for me. But look, they're going to need C.J. McCollum to have a huge night if they want to advance. It's not impossible, but they need to get scoring from somebody else. They need to figure out who else can put the ball in the bucket between McCollum and Ingram. There's got to be a way for them to figure out how to create opportunities to score and just start making shots, because those guys are good shooters. And if McCollum gets hot, he can carry this team for a long stretch in this game and put the game out of reach, because I don't necessarily believe that this is a Sacramento team that, despite what we've seen from them defensively as of late, and this is a Sacramento team that's barely giving up 95 points a game over their last 5 games. Now, again, some of that's against Portland, in a game that doesn't matter, against Phoenix when they didn't need it. I mean, so this is I think this Sacramento defense is sort of fugazi at this point in time, what we've seen from them over the course of the last 8 to 10 games. That said, again, you're relying on a lot of shot making from New Orleans, and if they aren't hot early, guess what? This thing could be over by halftime.
We had Keegan Murray single-handedly beat the Golden State Warriors, right? 8 of 13 from 3. It was just an unbelievable performance. I can't see him doing that again here on the road, right? So if you do get a little regression, what's left? Like, is there going to be enough?
If they don't have that level of shooting again, then this is a New Orleans team, and I keep having to remind people how good New Orleans is, despite their mediocre record and everything else. They're one of 3 teams that are top 10 in offensive efficiency and defensive efficiency. It's hard to really be there. So if you're not Boston or Oklahoma City, the 2 respective number 1 seeds in each conference, it's only the team in basketball that has that. So they are a better team all around. They've just got to play like it when it matters. The 82-game sample size that's now over for the last 2 games that they've played, obviously it tells a bigger story, but I agree with you. I don't think Keegan Murray can go off the way he did. I don't know. Sacramento certainly can shoot and score, but remember, this is a different team without Kevin Huerter and that perimeter shooting. Once they get perimeter shooting, it changes the game for Sabonis inside, and I think this is a game where, despite the fact that Zion's not there, that he might not have all of the ability to do what he normally does. And again, if Keegan Murray isn't making shots at the same rate, it might be tough for the Kings here to get the scoring going.
Yeah, and I'll say this to the Kings. They were much better on the road than they were at home this year, ironically enough. They were a pretty good cover team on the road. Yes. But, I think Ingram is finally healthy. And I think that combination with C.J. McCollum and Trey Murphy, they got more than enough firepower, I think, to get this thing up and over the total, because all those games we saw were just absurd offensive efforts there. So it got to look over, no?
I would tell you it's correlated. It's Kings in the over and Pelicans in the under, right? Like, I think they're 100% correlated. If this thing is going on, I don't want the Pelicans without Zion to have to try to get into a scoring pace fest, right? Like, that's not what they want to do. They need to slow this down, force the Kings to play a half-court set and not get out in transition, because the Kings can do that better than you can. They're a faster-paced team than New Orleans, and, for the most part, I wouldn't want to get into a scoring fest with the Kings, just because I think they have better players at this point.
So we talked to, Miami and Chicago. Congratulations. You get to lose to Boston. Is there a team you think can either of these teams push OKC? Because it's my understanding that if New Orleans wins this and advances, they may very well get Zion back. I don't think Miami's getting Jimmy Butler back for the playoffs, but can either of these 2 teams, push OKC, the number 1 seed?
Yes. The short answer is yes, they can. And the reason they can is just simply because you're dealing with a whole ton of inexperience with Oklahoma City, right? And that certainly is something that matters in these moments, and how to make big shots and everything else. Now, you're also looking at a Kings team and a Pelicans team that's yet to really feel like they're going to win a playoff series, right? Like, we've seen that the last couple of years. The Pelicans can't win a damn series in the postseason, and the Kings choked one away last year. So, it's one of those things where, all these teams are looking to get over the hump, and it could be ripe for the picking to take advantage of an Oklahoma City team. But whichever team advances, I tell you what, that's a series where I probably won't play the first game unless the number is something way out of whack. Because the winner of the first game of that series, I think, would win that series, right? Like, that's how critical the opener is to set the tone for the other teams to be able for the team to be able to relax and say, hey, okay, we can do this, we can beat this team kind of deal. But if Oklahoma City loses that first game at home, you know they're going to feel a ton of pressure, not wanting to go down 0-2 to whoever it is in their first playoff series with this young core.
I agree. I think that's they need to be tested. For me to believe in them, I got to see them with their backs against the wall at least once. We'll see how they react there. Did you back the Yanks tonight here, or are they completely inflated here against this Tampa team at home?
I'm not touching the Yankees. And certainly I'm not touching the Yankees unless the starting pitcher matchup is something I feel comfortable with. Now, Clark Schmidt's better at home than he is on the road, but again, I'm still skeptical, at least from a starting pitching standpoint with the Yankees. I mean, if you want me to take a Yankees team total, sure. I can live in that world if I'm not overjuiced. Do you want me to take a total in the game? Sure, I can live in that world. But for the most part, the Yankees aren't going to see numbers that are favorable, right? I mean, if I'm laying 175, that means in the first 5 money line, I'm probably laying around 160, 170. And then I got to lay a half run and still probably pay around 118, 120, 125. So the numbers aren't really favorable because the Yankees, much like the Lakers, much like a lot of these other teams, are going to continually be overpriced until we have a large enough data sample size that says, hey, they're not as good as we think they are. So I'll stay off them nonstop. I think it's very interesting tonight, by the way. Speaking of overpriced, and the game just got underway with Justin Verlander and and the Houston Astros going. I took Mackenzie Gore and the Nats plus the 1.5. I think it's an absolute excellent time to take them. Mackenzie Gore is always a starter worth backing. I think there was an overprice on the Astros because Verlander was back in the lineup. The Astros aren't hitting as we saw against the Braves lineup, the Braves series where they couldn't score runs. And oh, by the way, you know who has the better bullpen here by a wide margin? Not the Houston Astros. It's the Washington Nationals who have a much better bullpen here. So the plus 1.5 felt like the right side tonight for me.
Any way this Atlanta game stays under against Texas? Because it just screams double digits to me. Unless you got faith in Sale, I don't see how Heaney versus Sale. What is this? 2016? What are we doing here?
I don't like playing overs when it's 9.5. There's just a lot that can go wrong for me, at least for my comfortability level. That said, if there was a 9 out there, okay, we can have a conversation about it. Is Chris Sale able to shut lineups down? Maybe. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily doubt it. But the Braves don't hit lefties well. And Andrew Heaney's ERA is higher than the price of eggs right now, and his whip is higher than a gallon of milk, and it's quite inflated. So I don't know that he's a starter I want to back either. I would tend to look at this, and I didn't even check the first half, but if I got like over 5 in the first half, I think it's more probably viable to sit there and play that because the Braves bullpen isn't going to give up much.
Yeah, I agree. Not buying Yamamoto either or Manea. 8.5 at Ches Ravine. Over?
I feel like the Mets are going to win this one. I actually feel like the Mets are the right side. I feel like the Dodgers were overpriced tonight with Yamamoto on the mound. Again, what do we really know about this guy when it comes to pitching in the bigs? Nothing. No. The Mets just came off. I get it. They came off a big series win, right? Yeah, over the Pirates, and now they got to go out on the road to play the best team in the National League theoretically against. But the prices are insane. Like Mets plus 1.5 feels pretty darn good at this point in time.
Yeah, I am with you, my man. This is going to be an interesting night heading into the weekend in Major League Baseball. And, of course, we're just about 20 minutes away from the opening tip with Miami taking on the Chicago Bulls for a play-in game. So it should be a fun weekend here, Zin. We appreciate the time, as always, here, my friend. Good luck with those games here tonight. Game Time Decisions will be back.
It's when he swung it easy at 3/4 golf swings, and he pretty much hit his number all the time. Dude, but when he hit something full, he hit it 20 yards over the greens at times. He's like, what are you doing?
He's just smiley, happy, and a freakish athlete golf robot that's going to be right there winning majors for the next 10 plus years. It's amazing.
Did you say he was smiling or smiley?
only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The Philadelphia 76ers, who are the second best team in this Eastern Conference by a mile when Joel Embiid is healthy. That's just what they are. So now, if Giannis isn't available, the Bucks would be dogs in the series.
He ain't sleeping on that air mattress anymore. He's got a regular king-size bed, a Posturepedic, whatever they call it, a Sealy's, whatever they do, those things. He ready to roll. Dominating tonight.
Game Time Decisions, only on SportsGrid.
People that bashed him will be eating their words this year. Pretty heavily favored to be a first-round pick, minus 400 earlier this week. But that's not the surprise.
If you're drafting J.J. McCarthy in the first half of the first round, you clearly believe not only is he a starter, he's going to be your starter for years to come. But
a popular bet was under 3.5 wide receivers in the first round.
The tape doesn't lie, baby.
Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game Time Decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
late
sort of
night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
And welcome back. Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network as we look to close out this first hour. Much to get to here, including just about 15 minutes away from the opening tip on in South Beach. In fact, as the Miami Heat getting ready to take on the Chicago Bulls. The winner advances to take on the Boston Celtics, the number 1 seed. And, of course, that'll be followed up with Sacramento and New Orleans, the other half of the play-in game here tonight. We got plenty of NBA action as the playoffs officially begin tomorrow, and so do the NHL playoffs. So a lot going on this weekend, and we've got plenty going on currently right now in Major League Baseball as some games off and running, including watching Justin Verlander take the mound again at what seems like, boy, it's been a hot minute since we've last seen him. Nothing right now as Houston on the road taking on the Washington Nationals. We do have a couple of home runs in the first inning there by Boston. A couple of solo jacks have Boston up 2-0 right now. And the Phillies just put on a 3-spot against the White Sox, and their stud young left-handed pitcher, Crochet, didn't work out all that well for him as he walked a guy, kind of gave up a couple of hard-hit balls, and next thing you know, it is 3-0 now as the Phillies still up in the bottom of the first. We also have the Angels in Cincinnati, no score there. We are awaiting the start of the New York Yankees at home, getting ready to take on the Tampa Bay Rays and Atlanta. And Chris Sale taking on Andrew Heaney there and the Texas Rangers. That, too, is coming up first pitch next hour. So we've got plenty of Major League Baseball. We've got urgency with the play-in games here in Miami. We got a little something for everybody here tonight, which is why it's important that you come back and join us here. We're just getting started. Game Time Decisions. It's about that time. Come back and join us here on the grid. All right, welcome back in. Off and running another hour here on Game Time Decisions on the SportsGrid Network. And what a Friday it is going to be here. Joe Raineri, appreciate you stopping in as we're getting ready now. Just a few minutes away from the opening tip-off with the Miami Heat trying to advance and keep their playoff streak alive here. Now, don't forget, they were in this spot a year ago, taking on this same Chicago Bulls team with an opportunity, one and done, elimination game. And Miami ended up getting it done in that one. And then, of course, the rest is history as they went right through the Eastern Conference and then fell a little bit short to the Denver Nuggets here. But they're going to have to do it without Jimmy Butler here tonight. And that's the big problem here for Miami. But the question is it a problem tonight or is it a problem moving forward? And I think we can all agree that having to go to Boston, which the winner of this game will do, not great not having Jimmy Butler. But we also know they're not playing Boston tonight. They're playing the Chicago Bulls, who have their own injury concerns at this time of year. Caruso was cleared to play, but again, ankle injuries. Not great that he sustained in the last game against the Atlanta Hawks. We have seen the money continue to kind of roll in here on Miami. I am starting to see Miami now laying 2 in the marketplace here as 1.5s are quickly turning over to 2 as we are just about 8 minutes away from the opening tip. Also, the total continues to rise here at 207 now, up from a low of 205.5 early this morning as we welcome in our radio audience from around the country on this Friday. Happy Friday, and get ready for some elimination NBA basketball because that's what's going on here tonight. I'm Joe Raineri, Game Time Decisions, and we are trying to make just that. The Game Time decision on, is it the Heat or is it the Bulls that we trust in this spot? The market continues to push the Miami Heat up and the total up. This originally opened up at about 208, 208.5. It was bet all the way down on the Jimmy Butler news down to about 205. And now we're starting to see it climb back up here. Now, does the public believe that the Heat are going to score a ton of points without Jimmy Butler, or is this market push something else? Kobe White, DeMar DeRozan, those are the two guys from a prop betting perspective. I know there are an awful lot of folks taking an eye on and probably centering a lot of their plays around that fact. And Kobe White single-handedly was the one who carried the Bulls past the Atlanta Hawks in that last game. That might have been the easiest over that we have had in a long time in that game, as Kobe White had, 42 points in that game. Nobody else really needed to do a whole heck of a lot. I don't know that he is going to do that in this game against the Miami Heat defense, who was pretty good. Even with Jimmy Butler on one leg, they were still pretty good and did a heck of a job limiting Joel Embiid and a very dangerous Sixers offense in that last game. So the Bulls, without a doubt, are going to have their hands full here tonight. And Miami will have to rise up and do it without their leader, Jimmy Butler. But they are in South Beach. They are home. And they do have Caleb Martin. They do have Tyler Hero, Kevin Love. They do have plenty of the pieces that they have had from a year ago when they made that run. And most importantly, maybe the guy on the sideline, which I don't ever think gets enough credit, and that being Eric Spoelstra, I think one of the best NBA coaches and one of the best motivators in the game. And who'd have thunk it, given the fact that Pat Riley handpicked him. And we all know the history of Pat Riley as a head coach, one of the best motivators ever. This Miami team will be ready for the Chicago Bulls. Kobe White over 2.5 made threes. Not a bad way to look there. He certainly has the hot hand, and coming off of that game may very well be feeling it. But Miami's not going to make it easy on him here tonight. DeMar DeRozan, what are we going to get out of him? Well, what are we going to get out of Vucevic taking on the big man, Bam Adebayo? I'll tell you this, Vucevic, 17.5 points is his point prop here tonight, and he's gone under 17.5 points in 7 of his last 9 games against Bam Adebayo. And that also includes last year's play-in tournament game. Same situation here, which oddly enough was also at 17.5 points here. So certainly a lot of different ways to be able to attack this game here tonight. Do keep in mind Adebayo limited Joel Embiid with some help there to 6 of 17 on Wednesday. I'm not quite sure how Vucevic is going to get 17.5 points in this one, because if Vucevic is one of your leading scorers, things went terribly wrong for the Chicago Bulls here tonight. So I don't mind focusing on that prop either. And if you have followed the Heat this year, then you no doubt know that they have been one of the most profitable first half teams in the association. It's a pick 'em price right about now, -1, -120, somewhere in that ballpark there. The Heat are the ultimate team to back early. And did you see what that lead was? 14, I believe, at the break on the road against Philadelphia. I do believe that the Heat, sans Jimmy Butler, 7-2 against the number in the first half this year when Jimmy was not available for them to play. This team comes out firing. They will come out firing in this game as well. So Miami Heat full game, Miami Heat first half, and then a number of very interesting prop bets coming up here in just a few minutes as the Heat and the Bulls are going to get ready to do battle. Following that game, another big battle here. Very similar storylines in the games, too, between Sacramento and New Orleans. New Orleans without their star player, right? No Zion Williams, but they do have number of other pieces in there that are more than capable of carrying this team to a victory. And awaiting that side of the bracket is going to be the Oklahoma City Thunder, number 1 seed. Very good team, total talent, but also very young. Sacramento is filled with a ton of experience. So is New Orleans. So will that matter? Well, they got to win the game tonight before they'll get a chance to push themselves against the Oklahoma City Thunder in the 1 seed. But I think the West is going to be real interesting here starting this weekend. A lot of teams and a lot of series here where the dog could very well win outright and be extremely profitable. But we got to get there first. That's tomorrow. Tonight, we got the Heat, we got the Bulls, we got Sacramento and New Orleans. Don't go anywhere. Come back and join us. Game Time Decisions here on the Grid.
It's when he swung it easy at 3/4 golf swings, and he pretty much hit his number all the time. Dude, but when he hit something full, he hit it 20 yards over the greens at times. He's like, what are you doing?
He's just smiley, happy, and a freakish athlete golf robot that's going to be right there winning majors for the next 10 plus years. It's amazing.
Did you say he was smiling or smiley?
Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The Philadelphia 76ers, who are the second best team in this Eastern Conference by a mile when Joel Embiid is healthy. That's just what they are. So now, if Giannis isn't available, the Bucks would be dogs in the series.
He ain't sleeping on that air mattress anymore. He's got a regular king-size bed, a posturepedic, where they call it, a Sealy's, whatever they do, those things. He ready to roll. Denominating tonight.
Game Time Decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
People that bashed him will be eating their words this year. Pretty heavily favored to be a first-round pick, minus 400 earlier this week. But that's not the surprise.
If you're drafting J.J. McCarthy in the first half of the first round, you clearly believe not only is he a starter, he's going to be your starter for years to come. But
a popular bet was under 3.5 wide receivers in the first round.
The tape doesn't lie, baby.
Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game Time Decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by on this Friday as we get ready for some elimination basketball and nothing like it. You got to love urgency, and nobody knows that better than Matty Peralta, who'll be taking over here up at the top of the hour because, well, whether or not Sherapan shows up, we're still trying to figure that one out. Although I think he's out trying to find the new City Connect Pittsburgh Pirates jerseys, at which point he should be beat with it if he shows up on air with that thing on there. Matty, let me ask you a question here. Elimination, gotta love urgency in playoffs, right? Nothing better than the Stanley Cup when that comes here tomorrow. But tonight, Miami and Chicago, game one, were you leaning one way or the other in this one?
I took Miami minus 1.5. I think it's interesting that the books, even without Butler, put Miami as the favorite. And I think it's simply because of the better coaching. I think the roster, the depth, I like Miami to win at home here. I think Miami, look, Boston's going to get a big break here to get Miami without having to face Jimmy Butler. But it's still a veteran team. They know how to win. They're a prideful organization. And look, the Bulls, look, they won a game on their home court against an Atlanta team that was just done. I thought Atlanta would show up and play much better. They did not. I wasn't fully impressed with either team in that game. I think Miami's just better than Chicago. So it's a low number. It's 2, I believe, now for the Heat. I'm okay with laying a bucket here. I think Miami wins. It'll be Miami and Boston with the 1 versus 8.
Yeah, well, it really doesn't matter who wins at that point. But you got to eventually somebody has to go through, so Boston can hurry up and beat them. You do have a West Coast game tonight as well there with New Orleans and Sacramento. How much stock do you put in the fact that New Orleans has beaten the living snot out of them every time they played this year? Like, what am I supposed to do with that? Can they win without Zion? If Miami wins without Jimmy, can't New Orleans win without Zion?
Same logic, same bet. Yes, I'm on the Pelicans, and I got it at just -1, and it's on to pick. I think some places are maybe it may flip before tip, but look, they're 8-4. The Pelicans are without Zion. ATS this year. They've played a bunch of games without him. Last year, they played a ton without him. Having Zion on the court is more inconsistent than having him on the court. That's the hook, right? He scored 40 points in the last game. They thought they were going to be able to pull off an upset. It didn't happen. The Lakers were able to storm in the last 3 minutes when Zion's hamstring went out. Then they went on that run, and the Lakers wound up winning. But I think the role players for the Pelicans, I think, will step up. And I don't think it's going to be Brandon Ingram. Ingram looks unlike himself. He looks hurt, maybe disinterested. The team doesn't really trust him. I just think the home court is big here. And I think that the Pelicans have a chance to just keep doing what they have done this season against this opponent. Just dominate and win. I don't think they win it going away, but give me both home teams tonight. This is why you play basketball, why you play the games. Have home games, 1-game elimination. They're game 7s. You want it at home. Same logic applies in my mind. Most often game 7s are won by the home team. Both home teams win today.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, and it was just a little more than a week ago. The Pelicans beat the Kings by 12 points there, and like they have done a number of times here. So sometimes, styles make fight, right? And it just has not been a great matchup for Sacramento. We'll see if they can get it done here tonight, the Pelicans, and advance to OKC. You and I have had a conversation. Like, it doesn't matter who wins this Miami-Chicago game. Does it matter, do you think, for OKC who wins this late game here tonight?
I mean, I think I'd rather play a Zion-less Pelicans team if I had to pick. I don't want to go to Sacramento and take on the Kings on the road. So the Kings are a much better home team than they are a road team. The Kings are not good on the road equally. Losing record on the road. Didn't play well in New Orleans. Didn't play well against anybody on the road, really. So I think if they're picking, if I was the 1 seed, I want to take on the team without their number 1 player. So if I'm picking, I want the Pelicans to win this game and have them come to their place but Sacramento equally, because they're bad on the road, maybe you want them. But I think if I'm picking, I want a Zion-less Pelicans team coming into my place versus Sacramento.
Yeah, and is he available to come back if they do win? I mean, I don't think Jimmy's coming back, period, but maybe Zion can rub some dirt on that and get back in there, but they have to win that game first coming up later. There is a nasty rumor around that on Bostonian versus the book here earlier today that Cam Stewart convinced you that Toronto might win this series here against the Bruins. Is there any truth to this? I'm saying this is the rumor. I didn't get a chance to see
there's
it.
More than rumor. This is
know.
Factual. This is fact. The bet has been placed. Okay. The bet is that if the Toronto Maple Leafs beat the Bruins, I will wear a Toronto Maple Leafs jersey on air, and it must be reciprocated. If the Bruins win, Cam must be wearing a Boston Bruins jersey on the air on SportsGrid when the Boston Bruins advance. He said Leafs in 6. I disagree, but okay. I mean, this is Lucy with the football all over again for the Toronto Maple Leafs. They just keep on running right at the Bruins, and they're 0-4 so far, and let's go 0-5 here, right on their back. Football gets pulled. Everybody in Toronto starts crying. It's going to happen. I mean, the Bruins, look, there's two teams, one in Vegas, one in Boston. They both tanked to get the matchups. Golden Knights wanted the Dallas Stars. They tanked last night, and they lost 4-1 as $4 favorites. Same thing goes for the Bruins. They lost their last 2 games because they wanted to play Toronto. I think that's good news for anybody who wants to back the Bruins and the Golden Knights because I think they like the matchups. They like who they're going to face. They're going to win the games, but Boston just has – look, we saw it with the Panthers last year, right? They won the President's Cup next year, and they got bounced in the first round. Next year went to the Cup Finals. Bruins, President Cup, historic season, lose to the Panthers in round 1. Let's see where they go, but I would be very surprised to see Boston lose in the first round.
Yeah, that's almost blasphemous that both of you have decided that you have to wear the other team's jersey. It's just that's going to hurt one way or the other there. But should be an interesting series there, right? Which one of these teams can get over the hump and advance? There are a lot, and call me crazy, but it feels like there's a lot of dogs in this round one in the NHL tomorrow that have a shot at legit. But again, are they really upsets here? I mean, what's the deal with Colorado? Is Tampa really that big a dog? Like some of these, it feels like it's a coin flip across the board in a lot of these games coming up.
Goaltending, right? It's the postseason. This is going to come down to goaltending. This is all going to come down to how did your goalkeeper, how did your goaltender play? You got a hot goalie, Vancouver, Winnipeg. You start looking at some of these teams and you're like, all right, the Rangers being monster favorites, if they don't get good goaltending. I mean, there's some really, the Hurricanes, there's some significantly heavy dogs that you win one game, if you can get a split, all of a sudden the odds completely change. So the first two games in the NHL playoffs are just huge for these big underdogs. And some of these, I mean, look, Tampa Bay, should they be that big of a dog? I mean, like Florida. I mean, you're down there. You know about this rivalry more than I do on Florida versus Tampa, but it feels like that series is going to be close, is it not?
Well, you would think, but I do think they finally turned that corner last year. But to your point, it's going to be which Vasilevsky shows up, which Bobrovsky shows up. And that'll determine who wins that series there because they both have experience. They both can certainly win that series. But I think, to your point, the goaltending is where it's all going to be decided. And I think we're going to know it rather quickly in all of these series. Come up. Does Boston flip-flop goalies, or do they stick with one here? What do they do, the Bruins here? And who should it be if you're the coach?
I'm playing Swayman until I see him falter, and then I'd go with Ullmark. But you've got two options to roll with. I'm playing Swayman first. I think Swayman's the better, younger goaltender. Ullmark had a great run last year, but really had a tough time in the postseason last year. So I'd be inclined to play Swayman, and then you got Ullmark waiting in the wings. If you have to play him, you play him.
Just in case. There you go. All right, the battle has begun. Matty Pearl, appreciate it, my man, taking over at the top of the hour. Game Time Decisions returns here on the Grid.
It's when he swung it easy at three-quarter golf swings, and he pretty much hit his number all the time. Dude, but when he hit something full, he hit it 20 yards over the greens at times. He was like, what are you doing?
He's just smiley, happy, and a freakish athlete golf robot that's going to be right there winning majors for the next 10-plus years. It's amazing.
Did you say he was smiling or smiley?
Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The Philadelphia 76ers, who are the second best team in this Eastern Conference by a mile when Joel Embiid is healthy. And that's just what they are. So now, if Giannis isn't available, the Bucks would be dogs in the series.
He ain't sleeping on that air mattress anymore. He's got a regular king-size bed, a posturepedic, whatever they call it, a Sealy's, whatever they do, those things. He's ready to roll. Denominating tonight.
Game Time Decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
People that bashed him will be eating their words this year. Pretty heavily favored to be a first-round pick, minus 400 earlier this week. But that's not the surprise.
If you're drafting J.J. McCarthy in the first half of the first round, you clearly believe not only is he a starter, he's going to be your starter for years to come. But
a popular bet was under 3.5 wide receivers in the first round.
The tape doesn't lie, baby.
Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. We have breaking news. Apparently, Aaron Judge got another hit. Didn't see that coming. But he didn't result in any runs yet. But the Yankees trying to get one done here at the stadium, taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. And we also want to remind folks that while we've got NBA playoffs going on, 21-11, Miami up over Chicago, by the way. NHL's tomorrow, but don't forget a pretty big event happening next Thursday, and right here on the network as well with our next guest here who's going to be right smack in the middle of it. Joe Lisi in the house. Can you believe it is the NFL draft, Lisi, a week away? It's kind of nuts, but it's, you know, like Jet fans like myself, this is the biggest night of the year because everything else sucks. So this is where hope reigns free here, right, in this draft coming up?
Well, if you get Brock Bowers, yeah, then all of a sudden, buy those AFC championship tickets, right, Joe? Big Bad Aaron and the New York Jets. That's it. Yeah, I'm a Dolphin fan. It doesn't get any better. We're not going to go anywhere with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle anyway, and so it doesn't matter. You know, we're both in the same boat, so we'll see how this plays out.
So how is it going to play out? I mean, obviously everyone seems hell-bent in understanding who the first pick and quarterback is. How do you see the top half of this draft going? A lot of quarterback needy teams, a lot of available quarterbacks. How do you have it rated?
Well, I think now just looking from the odds and just looking in regards to, Justin Fields moving on, I think it's definitely Caleb Williams for number one. He's minus 20,000 for the Chicago Bears, but the discussion then becomes 2 and 3. I think there's no doubt if Washington stays pat at number 2, I don't care who they've had into camp. I know Jaden Daniels was upset that all 4 quarterbacks came there, but I don't think they could start a new regime with Josh Harris and Dan Quinn and go with Drake May or J.J. McCarthy, especially when you had mediocrity for the past 20, 25 seasons with Daniel Snyder, right? So the fact that Jaden Daniels is there on the board, he could take a game over, is the best pure passer and touch passer in this draft class, and we know about his legs. I think he goes number 2. The discussion then remains, does New England stay pat at 3? If so, do they go with maybe Drake May or J.J. McCarthy, or do they in fact trade out with a team like Minnesota or maybe another team that maybe values either an offense or a defensive player? It could be potentially Joe Alt, Harrison, or maybe a defensive player like we saw Will Anderson go last year, 2 and 3. Maybe it's Dallas Turner.
Well, it's so interesting because the top half of the board all has a whole lot of needs and certainly a lot of quarterbacks going on there. What are you hearing about Penix? Is this a guy that might shock us and move up the draft board and somebody take him sooner rather than later? Who is that one guy that right now not a lot of chatter about, but ultimately there could be some movement to go get him? He feels like he should be way more in the discussion than what he is.
Well, I'm with you if we're talking quarterbacks, right? His number was 33.5 in terms of slot. He's down to 32.5 with Bo Nix. But when you talk about a pure passer, 4,000 yards, he ran a 4.5 40. He did it at Indiana with mediocre skill players. He could definitely do it in terms of the NFL, and he's a pure pocket passer. Fits the need of Las Vegas, fits the need potentially with Minnesota. So I think there's no doubt that Michael Penix does go in the top 32. I definitely think that. If we're talking skill players, though, Joe, I'll throw two out there. You know, Brian Thomas from LSU is 75 to 1 shot to be the second wide receiver. We talk about Neighbors. We talk about, obviously, Marvin Harrison. I put the comp. Marvin Harrison is like Calvin Johnson. Neighbors is like Tyreek Hill. But Brian Thomas is right there as well. Big body, 6'3", 215, ran a 4.3 40. We talk about the numbers for Jaden Daniels. Brian Thomas has half those numbers that he had. It was the other half was Malik Neighbors, 75 to 1. And then I'll throw another flyer. Running back, first running back off the board. Braylon Allen is the Derrick Henry of this class. This draft class for running backs, mediocre. He's a 45 to 1 shot to be the first guy off the board.
So besides quarterbacks here, what is the other stockpiled spot that we're talking? Everyone wants tackles. We get that. But, that doesn't mean there's a boatload available. What is the other positions that you think teams can really benefit on in this draft?
I think the end, because you talk about Dallas Turner, right? He's even money. He's the favorite, but don't count out Jared Verse from Florida State. I think Jared Verse is more like a Myles Garrett type of player, and I think he's better in run support than Dallas Turner. Dallas Turner is the edge rusher, pure edge rusher. The guy that forces double teams is Jared Verse. He was a 7 to 1 shot to be the first defensive player off the board. He's down now to plus 350, and don't count out Latu from UCLA. 13 total sacks last year, led all Pac-12 players. We saw Phillips go, top 15 for the Miami Dolphins a couple of years ago. That translates as well. He's an active player, more like Dallas Turner, but if you like his body size, does have a neck injury in his past, but potentially at plus 350. He's a very athletic defensive end. Not as good in run support. Best run support is Jared Verse all around. I think he could go as well.
So what happens movement-wise? There are a lot, and we believe nothing of what we hear, right? Everything leading up to the draft is all BS. You take it, right. It's all smoke and mirrors until we get there. But what is that one team that might be willing to move up and go get a player? What is the first trade? Around what number do you think?
I think it's between 3 and 5. We see the Chargers there because, again, if Jim Harbaugh came in, kept Eckler or kept Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, I'd say, okay, maybe they're one player away. They could maybe draft a Marvin Harrison or Malik Neighbors in terms of that regard. The fact that he got rid of both of those players, he might be willing to draft out of that position, right, and trade out because he could get draft capital. So, again, they're not one player away. They have Justin Herbert. He's got to build a team according to what he wants, and that might take a couple of years. So why not get draft capital trading out of the 5 slot? I will say this, and I'll get your take because I know you follow the NFL. Did you think Sean Payton signed up for a complete rebuild in Denver when he took the job with Russell Wilson? He took the job because he thought it was an absolute complete one-stop fix. I could just wave my magic wand, and then in 2 years, maybe we're playing for an AFC championship. Now they have no quarterback, no identity. He's getting rid of his best players. You think he's going to put out for another 2 or 3 seasons in a rebuild? We're not talking about Denver. They have no assets whatsoever. They could be a team that trades up to potentially get one of these quarterbacks.
It feels like to me, JoJo, doesn't it? It feels like when he got there, the thought process was, I can fix him. We've got the pieces. I think after an hour in the building with him, he's like, we got to blow this thing up and get rid of it.
Right?
There is
Think about it, Joe. When my Dolphins tacked a 70 on his ass, he wanted to get rid of Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton. It wasn't until they actually, pulled it back a little bit. They went on a little bit of a run, and then he's like, maybe we could fix it. But the identity is, where are they going? He's not going to stay there 3 years to go through the growing pains at his
No.
age. He wants an immediate winner. That's why he took that job.
Yep, he did, and I think he realized it wasn't long after. I think that he realized he had some issues in that locker room. He had some, big issues. And I think it started with Russell Wilson, and I thought he tried to navigate early and realized. Listen, quite honestly, the fact that they were even available and playing for a playoff spot late in the season is mind-blowing to me.
Right.
And I think you got to give him credit. But I think, hey, this is the hand you were dealt. What is he going to do? You're going to keep him and then try and it would only get worse from there. So I think it's a no-win situation. And then you get Harbaugh that comes into your division now. And quite honestly, are you buying Harbaugh from... It didn't work the first go-around in the NFL, right? He couldn't get along with anybody. Is he going to get along with everyone now?
It might take 2 or 3 years. And the reason why, because the Chargers are like a glass house. His style doesn't translate to the Chargers what they had with Staley.
Yep.
Staley was a player's coach. It's never their fault. Accountability. That's going to take at least 2 years to weed out. That's why I'm shocked that they're still 21-1, the same price as the Cleveland Browns to potentially win an AFC championship, again, with no assets outside of Justin Herbert, which is amazing.
Yeah, we also learned, of course, that the overreaction to Diggs being traded to Texans are winning the Super Bowl now, Joe. I don't know if you know that. It doesn't really matter until Diggs gets in the locker room and blows it up here. Are we over the top here with the Texans right now?
I'm not over the top. I just love C.J. Stroud because they bashed this kid last year and he just erased everything. The Wonderlic, the Manning camp, he erased every critic and the kid deserved everything he got last year. So I'm more of a buyer of him and DeMeco Ryans for what he did last year than I am so much Stephon Diggs. But that being said, it's a great asset. And Nico Collins and Tank Dell now won't be double teamed.
Yeah, well, the problem is, though, the minute he doesn't get as many passes as he likes, there's going to be a lot of sulking.
He might play 8 games.
The guy's a ticking time bomb, Joe. But you've got your finger on the pulse and a big, big show coming up, draft party here next Thursday on SportsGrid with Joe Lisi. We appreciate it, brother. Enjoy the weekend. We'll talk to you again next week. GTD is back after this.
It's when he swung it easy at 3/4 golf swings, and he pretty much hit his number all the time. Dude, but when he hit something full, he hit it 20 yards over the greens at times. He's like, what are you doing?
He's just smiley, happy, and a freakish athlete golf robot that's going to be right there winning majors for the next 10-plus years. It's amazing.
Did you say he was smiling or smiley?
Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The Philadelphia 76ers, who are the second best team in this Eastern Conference by a mile when Joel Embiid is healthy. That's just what they are. So now, if Giannis isn't available, the Bucks would be dogs in the series.
He ain't sleeping on that air mattress anymore. He's got a regular king-size bed, a Posturepedic, whatever they call it, a Sealy's, whatever they do, those things. He ready to roll. Denominating tonight.
Game Time Decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
People that bashed him will be eating their words this year. Pretty heavily favored to be a first-round pick, minus 400 earlier this week. But that's not the surprise.
If you're drafting J.J. McCarthy in the first half of the first round. You clearly believe not only is he a starter, he's going to be your starter for years to come. But
a popular bet was under 3.5 wide receivers in the first round.
The tape doesn't lie, baby.
Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
late
sort of
night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network on this Friday. We certainly appreciate you stopping by. A quick update, Miami Heat and the Chicago Bulls, the end of the first quarter, 34-17. The Heat getting it done, shooting, I believe, just over 52% in the first quarter there, and handling business at home, even though they don't have any Jimmy Butler here. But we've seen this version of the Heat before. They go into the break with a lead, and then it's they got to hold on for dear life. So plenty of basketball left to be played. Nobody knows that more than PGH himself, Mr. Dave Sharapan. And as sure as I'm sitting here, Dave, I said it earlier. I said these are horrific City Connect uniforms with the Pittsburgh Pirates. I don't know what they're wearing. And I said, without a doubt, Sharapan's going to come in here wearing this new City Connect jersey, and voila! Well, I love the hat though. The hat is the hat is hot.
This is a BBB because I got to go on with Peralt. Red Sox are playing the Pirates. It's a big series, okay? In April, I don't know if there's any really big series, but yes, the City Connect are questionable. I haven't got one yet, but I'll get back to Pittsburgh here hopefully soon. Pick myself up one. It's a bright, okay? And it's okay. What's not bright is the City Connect Mets uniforms, which
they're awful.
We got a guy who's a pretty big Mets fan, behind the scenes here. He said he liked them. I can't believe it. They look like the Yankees. They're always trying to be different than the Yankees. The blue and orange is outstanding. And, Joe, I mean, you're a Yankee guy. They look like the Yankees, do they not? What is that?
I have no idea. And I said the same thing last year with the Padres because I thought it was the Marlins. I'm like, that is the kind of uniform the Marlins would have on with all the, the pinks and the, wait a minute, that's
great.
the Padres? What are we
I
doing?
like those. No, but they're nice. No,
but it looks like something the Marlins would wear. Like what? That looked like a Miami uniform, not a Padres. Just way too many fuchsias and colors involved with the whole. You know what? There's something really nice turning it on and seeing the White Sox with the gray and black, and everyone wins. Like we all know what it. Yeah, look at this thing. It's a Yankee uniform.
It's almost I like the NYC on the jersey, okay, but it's old school. It has. I have a feeling like we went back into like the 1930s with the classic look.
Right.
The hat is sharp with that bridge underneath the NY. Pretty good. I just would have liked them to be blue. Like that pinstripe could have been blue.
Orange.
They look kind of like prison uniforms. I don't know. Something about them. The purple underneath. What's the significance of the purple? See, every City Connect has something. The Phillies went, and they're wearing theirs tonight. Went blue.
I don't know what that is either. Yeah.
I don't know what that is, but it's one of those things. So I don't know.
No. Don't like it. No. I'm an old curmudgeon along those lines. Just listen, if it ain't broke, let's not fix it. Okay,
Right.
I want to know who's playing when I see it. That's what I want to not where I have to guess whose ugly City Connect is. Like I would never look at the Phillies right now and be like, oh, the Phillies. Who? No, absolutely terrible. Don't understand that one at all. But
speaking of the Phillies, though, Joe, like is against the White Sox one of the easiest bets of baseball season up to this point. Like you don't have to think unless the price is going to break you. There's not a team. I mean, like it could be a rough day for Chicago today. The Cubs already won, but the White Sox, they're going to lose. The Bulls getting smoked. The Blackhawks season done. The Bears are on the clock. I mean, it's a big week for Chicago, right?
Yes, it is.
But I don't think there's an easier bet in baseball right now than against the White Sox. Got to be the worst team in the league.
Well, again, tell that to the Marlins because they are pretty horrific as well. But at least they had this kid, by the way, they just pulled him. So this kid, Crockett, however he pronounces his name, the kid has looked really, really good. He's got just an absolutely amazing arsenal. I think he'll be fine, but the problem is he's never going to get any run support. That total was down to 7.5, Dave. They got 7 runs alone right now, the Phillies. So that's not going to work, I don't think, with them until they can get Lewis Roberts back. They got to get some guys that can hit there, but they have absolutely nobody. But you never told you're on Boston tonight wearing the Pittsburgh gear. Is that what I heard you say?
Yeah. Priester is a number one draft choice that they keep just trucking out there. And I go, faded him last year. Surprised that he's up there this year trying to get innings and all this other stuff. Just prone to the big inning. And they're already down 3-0 to a team in the Red Sox that really has struggled to score runs. So, and you got Bayo or Bello or Joey Callow. I don't know what his name is, but he's pitching. I don't know how to say it right, but I know he looks pretty good so far. The Pirates got an out at the plate to keep the inning from getting out of hand.
Yep.
It's definitely Red Sox tonight, but it's Pirates tomorrow.
Yes.
Probably Pirates on Sunday. When I see the pitchers and get confirmation, I think the Buccos will win tomorrow and then take 2 out of 3 for the series. So that's what we're looking at as far as the whole weekend. But, I mean, there's games tonight. The Mets are playing tonight against the Dodgers. Did you see that line? Did you? I mean,
yes.
What are we doing with Yamamoto? Come on.
We're hitting him, and we're playing overs because I'm yet to see this guy shut anybody out. He doesn't, and he strikes some dudes out. But what I have seen of him, early on is that he's not missing a lot of barrels sometimes, and that means runs. I played the over in it, Dave, because I just don't see Manaea too is pitching above his head right now.
Yep.
He's walking more. He is missing more barrels, but. My goodness, how long is that going to last against that Dodgers lineup? I thought 8.5 was a little low, and until I see a big goose egg up there for Yamamoto, I'm not. He's just as hittable as anybody else right now. And don't the Mets always give them problems out at Ches Ravine?
Yep.
They do, right?
Yeah, the Mets are probably a live dog at that price, right?
Oh,
but the over's the best play in the game. The other game, West Coast, is Diamondbacks and Giants. And I looked at this morning and I said, man, this is one of those things. Like if I was in the room, I would just stand up on a table and say, make this pick 'em and let them bet the Giants. Have you seen Snell's stats? I don't get it. I'm looking at it and I'm going, I got it right here. 0-2, 12.86 ERA, and his whip is almost 2, like 1.9.
Right. Yep.
You figured the Diamondbacks to score runs tonight. Give Montgomery a lead, and I mean that's a nice plus tonight. I just sometimes they just scream out at. So we'll be looking at that.
What do these two guys have in common? They both share the same agent that didn't allow them to have any spring training. So if you want to know why their numbers are like that, going up against Montgomery, and so I think there's going to be nothing but fireworks here because both these guys weren't allowed to show up and play with anybody because somebody was getting rich. Scott Boras was getting rich, but these guys weren't pitching. So I do think it'll work out eventually for Snell, and Montgomery's still trying to figure it all out here. But it does feel, even in that ballpark, Dave, it does feel like runs should be coming against those two guys. No?
I would think so. That's another one of those, like, dog it over. I
Yes.
mean, if nothing else, Diamondbacks team total over. All right.
Yes.
I mean, the only way Snell, I think, doesn't give up a couple is that he has one of those nights where he's amazing, goes 5 or 6 innings of 2-hit ball with multiple strikeouts and things like that. But yeah, I figure the Diamondbacks to score tonight. When you look at it, that's a pick 'em game. So when you take a plus, the other game tonight too, Joe, it's out west. Pick 'em game, Toronto and San Diego.
Yes.
I looked at that and said, wow, this is really interesting. You put up a number in the book and it sits there all day. Maybe a couple cents here, a couple cents there. It flips back and forth. But man, I don't know what to do with the side here. Who do you expect to actually hit tonight? That's the hard part. I don't know.
That's the big. It's not like Waldron and the kid Rodriguez give you a whole lot of confidence one way or the other here. But and that's a tough ballpark to hit in to begin with there at Petco. So it's not a great hitter's ballpark, so to speak. So that's a game where flip a coin. I thought Peralta had a much bigger advantage over Gibson. I took the Brewers over the Cardinals here tonight. That game is coming up here. The Brewers, I've been preaching it for, since the season started. Don't sleep on the Brewers in a winnable division. I just didn't see them smashing the ball like that is, but the pitching's coming around. I don't buy the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals are in for a 75-win season here. I think it's going to be rough for them, and I don't think Gibson is going to look nearly as good as he did in the first couple of starts. I think there's runs coming in this one as well.
I can't believe that, like, when you look at the odds to win a division, the NL Central, prior to the season starting, the Cardinals were at the top. And that was like, don't worry about last year. That's no problem.
Oh, you're fine, yeah.
They fix everything? What are you talking about?
No.
And the Brewers became the third or fourth choice simply because Burns left. And they didn't look at the rest of the starting pitching. Now, they're keeping them in games, yes, but like you said, the offense is performing way above expectations. So, I don't know. This is kind of a big weekend series of one that we would be in the book going, all right, do we need to adjust the odds right now? Do we need to maybe put the Brewers a little closer to the favorite? Or even, dare I say, make them right behind the Cubs? Because in my book right now, it's the Cubs are the best team in that division. Top to bottom, lineup-wise, and they got pitching coming. Like, they ain't even got everybody healthy right now. So, yeah, the NL Central is really interesting to look at. As the Heat are just blowing out the Bulls. Did you have a strong opinion either way about the basketball game coming up after that?
Yeah. Oh, I was on I tried to convince the viewing audience as best I could last hour that Jimmy Butler was not needed to beat the Chicago Bulls. 42-27. We also took the over. And I just in the life of me, I can't figure out, watched and reviewed the 5 games that these teams played over the season. 250s, 240s, 230. Even without Zion, I can't help but to think this number is a little bit low here tonight at what, 210.5? Is it somewhere 211? I gotta really? We're gonna get a defensive juggernaut from these two teams?
The only way I think we get the unders if there's a blowout. And by blowout, I don't mean like 25. I mean by double digits, right? Team wins by double digits. That means maybe somebody stays under 100 and we don't get there. But you have to figure both teams to score 100, which would then put it a lot closer to the total of going over. I'll be surprised if it doesn't go over. I have no idea what to do with the side. No idea. Really? Because you're seeing it in Miami tonight. Star player out, whole team answers, they're fine. Same thing could happen tonight for the Pelicans.
Yeah. Well, the theory is the same, right? Same handicap here, but they got to show up tonight. if you are New Orleans. Dave's going to show up with Matty Peralt in just a few and in-game live. We appreciate it, Davey. Game Time Decisions. Close it out next.
It's when he swung it easy at three-quarter golf swings, and he pretty much hit his number all the time. Dude, but when he hit something full, he hit it 20 yards over the greens at times. He's like, what are you doing?
He's just smiley, happy, and a freakish athlete golf robot that's going to be right there winning majors for the next 10-plus years. It's amazing.
Did you say he was smiling or smiley?
Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The Philadelphia 76ers, who are the second best team in this Eastern Conference by a mile when Joel Embiid is healthy. And that's just what they are. So now, if Giannis isn't available, the Bucks would be dogs in the series.
He ain't sleeping on that air mattress anymore. He's got a regular king-size bed, a Posturepedic, whatever they call it, a Sealy's, whatever they do, those things. He ready to roll. Denominating tonight.
Game Time Decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
People that bashed him will be eating their words this year. Pretty heavily favored to be a first-round pick, minus 400 earlier this week. But that's not the surprise.
If you're drafting J.J. McCarthy in the first half of the first round, you clearly believe not only is he a starter, he's going to be your starter for years to come. But
a popular bet was under 3.5 wide receivers in the first round.
The tape doesn't lie, baby.
Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game Time Decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
late
sort of
night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in as we close out this edition of Game Time Decisions here. But don't worry, Matty Peralt and Dave Sharapan coming up here in just a minute in game live. And they will be prime time here, keeping you up to date on the first of the elimination games right now underway. The Miami Heat and the Chicago Bulls, 42-31, 11-point lead for Miami right now with about 5.5 to go in the first half here. Bulls are on a nice little 9-0 run here to be able to cut that almost a 20-point deficit here as they got about 5 minutes left to go in the break. We also have a whole lot of Major League Baseball games going on in which the fellas will keep you all up to date on. The Yankees can't seem to score a run, which is okay given the fact that neither can Tampa. 0-0, bottom of the third in that one. The Astros welcome back Justin Verlander And they have also given him a 3-run cushion. Well, now a 2-run cushion. 3-1 now with Verlander in there pitching through 4 innings, coming up top of the 5th here for the Houston Astros here. We'll see if Washington, or when and how long do they let Verlander go in this game, I think will be interesting. The Braves and the Rangers knotted up at 1 apiece heading into the 3rd. And how about the Guardians? Boy, they refuse to lose here. 2-1 right now over the Athletics. We have no score with the Royals and the Orioles, which is okay because the Red Sox seem to be doing all the scoring right now, heading to the bottom of the 5th. And Pittsburgh, with just 1 hit, is now down 5-0 to the Red Sox. They are coming up bottom of the 5th. Angels and Reds knotted up 1 apiece. And the White Sox should just pack it in now, as the Phillies are up 7-0. Much more baseball to come, much more basketball to come, and in-game live primetime is coming up next. Game Time Decisions will be back tomorrow. Until then, best of luck with your plays. We'll talk to you soon.